Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK back at you with another video here to break down some value plays that I'm liking for week 1 on the main slate. Real quick before I jump into it, if you haven't watched my showdown analysis of Green Bay and Chicago, I already have that up on my channel. This is currently Wednesday night, so we got one more night until football, and also I will be live streaming probably about 30 minutes before lock. It's twitch.tv/DK_DFS. It'll be in the description below. So I really appreciate you guys come check out the stream. You can ask questions. I'll do my best to answer all the questions. But enough of that. Let's go over some value plays I'm liking for week 1. So value plays I'm gonna list as 5K and under. So we'll start with quarterback, and quarterback under 5K. There's really not a whole lot besides a guy who I think is going to be pretty chalky, and that is JACOBY BRISSETT. So obviously there's no Andrew Luck. He's the guy in town. The Colts just gave him a 2-year, like $30 million deal, something like that. So he's their guy. He's got rushing upside. Now the Chargers defense, pretty solid defense. It's on the road, but 4.4K, that's pretty hard to pass up. So a guy I think is going to be pretty popular in cash games, but you really can't go wrong at 4.4K. Like, he's really not going to hurt you unless he gets injured or something crazy like that. But yeah, so really JACOBY BRISSETT, the only guy under 5K. I talked about a few guys in my early video. Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray in that mid range I like, but really under 5K for QB at least. It's only JACOBY BRISSETT for me. A guy who I think is going to be pretty popular for cash games. Now let's go to running back. Running back, there's honestly not a whole lot I like below 5K. So if you guys watch my early video for the week 1 breakdown, I talked about a lot of those guys in the mid-tier range. Guys like Chris Carson, guys like Kerryon, guys like Dalvin Cook, Fournette. So I'm not going to talk about those guys. I'm going to talk about some cheap guys that I think are at least in play here. So we'll start, I guess, at 5K with Tevin Coleman. So this is one of the higher over-under, San Francisco, Tampa Bay. It's going to be a pretty popular game stack as well. So you're gonna want to get some pieces in this game for sure. It's going to be high scoring, 2 bad defenses going up against each other. So Tevin Coleman, right now though they have him listed behind Matt BREIDA on the depth chart. It's going to be close to a 50-50 split would be my guess. But Tevin Coleman for 5K, I don't think I would go there, because I could go to Matt BREIDA for 4K, a guy who I really like for season long and for DFS here. 4K, a guy who I think is going to go pretty low owned, but they have him listed right now number 1 in the depth chart. I know it's going to be kind of a timeshare, but again, this is a game that one of the higher over-unders of the night. 2 really bad defenses. Matt BREIDA, when healthy, this guy is a very, very good running back. So I think a guy that goes kind of sneakily under the radar, but I think he has some pretty big upside. So I think you got to consider Matt BREIDA. I think Tevin Coleman's okay, but again, I think I would rather just save the 1,000 and go to BREIDA. So LaShawn McCoy, it's going to be a 3-headed monster most likely here for Kansas City. Jacksonville, pretty solid defense too. I think he's in play just because, again, that Kansas City offense is so potent. But, I think there's probably better options. But, again, he's at least worth a look just because, again, that Kansas City offense is just so good. Tony Pollard, he was going to be the chalk week 1. We just got news, though, that Zeke got the deal done. So I can't go to Tony Pollard. Now, an interesting note was I saw they're going to limit Zeke to like 20, what was it exactly here? I took a screenshot. 20 to 25 reps right now. That's the plan. Now, I think that's probably going to change, but that's at least something we can take note of. Like, if Zeke's only going to be out there for a little bit, then you can at least consider Tony Pollard, but again, probably not going to be the way I go. Other than that, Philly backfield is just too many mouths to feed. I will talk about Tampa Bay. Yeah, so Peyton Barber, everyone's hating on this Tampa Bay run game. But rightly so. Like, Peyton Barber, Ronald Jones, these guys are not that good. But I think these guys go super low owned. And this is a game, again, I think it's a very game stackable game. And one of the highest over-unders, 2 really bad defenses. I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but I think these guys are at least worth a look. Peyton Barber, they said he's going to get the start, but, Ronald Jones gets some snaps too. I think he's at least worth considering. I think he's going to go really low owned, but again, that's just another piece of a really high over under. Lastly, talk about the two Buffalo running backs. So Frank Gore and Devin Singletary. So right now they have Frank Gore listed at 1, Singletary 2, and TJ Yeldon 3. It's kind of sounding like it's going to be a three-headed monster too, with all three backs getting some work. But again, 3.6 for Singletary, 3.8 for Frank Gore. I don't think I could go Frank Gore. He's just too old. Doesn't have any pass catching ability. If I was going to play one of these guys, it would be Singletary at 3.6. But I'm probably going to take a wait and see approach. But yeah, just another guy I thought I would at least bring up. He's at least worth considering for sure. But yeah, all in all, there's really not a whole lot of running backs below 5K that I'm targeting. Besides Matt BREIDA, is probably the most confident guy that I do really like. So let's move on to wide receiver. Wide receiver is some pretty interesting plays below 5K. So we'll start with a guy who I think is going to be really chalky in cash games, and that's DeDe Westbrook. But I think he's a really solid play here. Again, a lot of people have been talking about him. He's got a good connection with Nick Foles. Kansas City most likely going to get ahead in this game, so Jacksonville should theoretically be playing from behind. That's good for Westbrook, and be playing out of the slot. Looked really good in the preseason. Got targeted 7 times in one preseason game. So I think DeDe Westbrook is, again, he's going to be popular, but at 4.8K, I think he's a really solid play for salary relief. Now, let's go to these Arizona guys. So Christian Kirk, I kind of talked about him in my early breakdown video. I don't think he's going to be as popular as I thought he would be now, because we got guys like DeDe Westbrook. We got a guy like Curtis Samuel he'll talk about in a sec. So I think Christian Kirk actually goes pretty low owned, but he's a guy that I'm really high in this Arizona offense. For season long, I have Kyler Murray as well as David Johnson on both teams, and I have Larry Fitzgerald in one. I have Christian Kirk in the other. So I'm really buying into Cliff Kingsbury here. I know the offensive line. I know it's not good, but I'm buying into they're going to be the fastest paced team in the league. They're just going to run like a hurry up offense. I almost feel like it's going to be like a college offense of just hurry up, quick passes, stuff like that. Kyler Murray, I think he's got a lot of upside. So I think these Arizona receivers go pretty low owned, but Kirk, I think he's definitely worth a look here at 4.7K. Same thing with Larry Fitzgerald. So I know he's old. He's 36, but look in the last 4 games of the season: 9 targets, 8 targets, 9 targets, 9 targets. And that was the worst. Arizona was one of the worst offenses in the league last year, and Larry Fitzgerald still put up double-digit fantasy points in each of the last 4 games. Now he gets a high-powered offense. Kyler Murray, much improved quarterback. So, I think Larry Fitzgerald, another guy that goes pretty low owned, but if you're game stacking, I think Fitzgerald or Kirk pairing him with Kyler Murray, I think that's at least something you got to consider if you're making multiple lineups. So, another guy who I think is going to be really chalky for week 1, and that's Curtis Samuel, but for good reason. It's really hard to get off this guy. This is another game that I like for the game stack. Rams and the Panthers. The over-under is over 50 right now. It should be a back-and-forth affair, and Curtis Samuel has been getting so much hype in the offseason, the preseason. He's looked really good. They got Funchess out of town, so it's really him. It's DJ Moore, the 2 receivers for Carolina. So, Samuel, I think he's going to be really popular, but it's really hard to get off this guy. So for cash games, I think you almost lock him in. Tournaments, you could fade, but he's looking like a really solid play here at 4.2K. If you want to get off the really high ownership, I think a pivot here is Jamison Crowder at 4.1. So he was kind of stuck in that bad offense of Washington the last few years. The Jets, they gave him a pretty good deal. I think it was 3 years, $28 million, something like that, something of that nature. And Sam Darnold in the preseason, he's been giving Jamison Crowder some good looks. Obviously, Crowder's a guy that runs out of the slot, and they seem like they have a pretty good connection. This Jets offense should be much improved. Now, this over/under is pretty low, but there's a lot of cheap options that you got to consider in this game. So I think if you want to pivot off of the chalk and Curtis Samuel, I think Jamison Crowder is worth a look here at 4.1K. Another guy, I will talk about a lot of these guys out of the slot. That's Adam Humphries. I know Tennessee's offense really not going to be that good, but you know, this guy's pretty good for PPR formats. 4K. You know, Tennessee should be playing from behind, so I think Adam Humphries is another guy you can consider for sure. Marquise Goodwin, another guy I think goes really low owned. And again, if you want a cheap piece of this game stack, you know, I think a lot of people are going to go to Kittle, OJ Howard, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I think that's where a lot of people are going to focus their attention. And these cheap guys, you know, the running backs I talked about, Goodwin here, I think go really low owned. But again, if you're making a game stack, you got to consider these guys. Goodwin, before he went down, I mean, this guy has breakaway speed, so he can easily break like a long touchdown catch. So 4K, you know, I think that's definitely viable. So you got to consider him there. You know, it's really hard to recommend a Miami guy, but if I was, I guess it would be DeVante Parker at 3.9. I mean, he's technically the #1 receiver, but this Miami offense is just going to be a mess. Baltimore's defense pretty solid. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you were going to take a shot at a Miami guy, I think it would be DeVante Parker, but whew, can't feel good about that. And then the two Buffalo guys here. So Zay Jones and Cole Beasley. Again, a lot of these guys in this game are really cheap. It is a really low over-under, but you know, Beasley, Zay Jones, I think are pretty good options. You know, Josh Allen in the back half of the season was one of the best fantasy quarterbacks. You know, he won a lot of people some big money in DFS last year. So, you know, Zay Jones, I think solid. Cole Beasley has looked actually pretty good in the preseason. Going to be playing out of the slot. I know I kind of like, you know, these slot receivers, but they're really good for PPR formats like Draftkings. So Cole Beasley, you know, 3.6K. You know, I think he's worth a look here. I think he goes pretty low owned because again, there's going to be chalky plays like Curtis Samuel, like DeDe Westbrook, who eat up a lot of the ownership. So a lot of these guys around this range or below them are, you know, virtually unowned, but you got to consider these guys for sure. I think that's about it for wide receiver. Tight end. So tight end, I like a lot of the guys in the mid-range. I know it's technically 5K and below. I mean, I really like OJ Howard. I really like Evan Ingram. I really like Hunter Henry. Those three I think are going to be really chalky plays, but for good reason. I'm not going to go into, you know, breaking them down, but I do like those three guys. If you wanted to pivot off of those ownership and go for guys who I think are, you know, pretty low owned, look to a guy like Delanie Walker. I know Tennessee's offense not going to be that good, but they should be playing from behind. Mariota, you know, Delanie Walker is his safety blanket, so 3.5K. I think he's definitely worth consideration. And then Greg Olsen too, another guy that, again, this Panthers-Rams game, I want some pieces of it. It's going to be really high over-under. Greg Olsen, I know he's old. I know he's been injury-prone. But when he's healthy, when he's out there, you know, this guy still has talent. 3.2K, that's too cheap, I think. So I think just for that reason, you know, a guy that is going to go low-owned. Again, I think the three chalky tight ends, it's going to be OJ Howard. It's going to be Evan Ingram. It's going to be Hunter Henry. I have no issue with any of those guys. I like all three of those guys. But if you want pivots off those ownership, you know, Delanie Walker and Greg Olsen, two guys I'm definitely considering for sure. And yeah, that's basically about it, guys. So I am going to have another video up here talking about some you know, game stacks that I really like, as well as quarterback wide receiver stacks. So that's going to be the next video that I will have up on my channel. But yeah, so if you guys have been enjoying the content so far, I'd really appreciate it if you would like this video and subscribe. If you have any questions, you can leave it in the comment section down below. It's also really important to follow me on Twitter. That will be in the description below. Again, it's Wednesday night, guys. So, you know, the showdown slate between Green Bay and Chicago, less than a day away. I will be live streaming probably about 30 minutes before lock. It's twitch.tv/DK_DFS. That will also be in the description below. So if you guys want to come out, check out the stream, that would be greatly appreciated. I would, you know, I'll answer any questions you guys have. So, so yeah, I will see you guys either in the stream or for my next video here. So I will see you guys then.